All right, so let's keep going with our notes on chapter 8 in our video lecture. So Islam is founded by Muhammad around the year 630, around 620, 630. And part of the faith, similar to Christianity and Buddhism, is the idea of spreading the faith, right? They're proselytizing religions that want to spread the faith and convert others. So the Arabs, one of the things Muhammad is able to do is unite the different Bedouin tribes, the different Arab tribes that had been fighting each other for a very long time, and he forces them to unite and work together into these, huge Muslim armies. And from there, he's able to slowly spread his control over the Arabian Peninsula, and in doing so, he's going to spread Islam. So at first, the Muslims were a minority within Arabia, and they were persecuted because they were a minority. But over time, they gain, with the leadership of Muhammad, they gain enough support that they become the dominant force in the Arabian Peninsula. One thing to point out, a very specific thing to point out, is that under Islamic law, there was no need or there was no requirement. This was something that Muhammad preached. Is that you can't convert people, you can't force people to convert, and the reason is that they believe that if people are forced to convert, then they're not going to be really sincere about it. So you have to kind of like offer it to them and just hope that they do it. And in fact, it becomes beneficial for many people to actually convert to Islam. Because under Islamic law, Muslims are considered equal, so they have more opportunities, equal opportunities, and anyone who is a Muslim, will be kind of at a disadvantage. On top of that, Islam, just like Christianity, offers a hope of salvation in an afterlife. So people, especially the downtrodden, lower class people, whose physical life here on earth might not be all that great. They might look forward to something better in the afterlife, in the sense of a paradise. So the Islam slowly spreads. First, they spread through conquest, because they're going to conquer a bunch of areas, but they're not going to convert people. They're not going to force people to convert. But when people see that, you see these huge armies and they're all Muslim and they're all praying together and they're all working together and they're conquering and defeating your enemy, your city and your country, it kind of becomes convenient, or it kind of makes sense for people to switch to the Islamic religion. So let's talk about their beliefs for a second. So Islam has 5 major kind of like belief and rules for Muslims to follow, and these are known as the 5 pillars. One of the first rules is that they believe that there's a single God, monotheistic, and whose name is Allah, and they believe that Muhammad is his prophet. They also view that Christians and Jews, because they're monotheistic, are known as people of the book, meaning that they follow the same God, but they haven't accepted the true message or the final message that is Muhammad's revelations. So Jews and Christians have kind of like a higher status than other non-monotheistic people within the Islamic faith, but they're not really 100% considered equal in a way. Another rule or pillar is that they have to pray 5 times facing Mecca. Of course, Mecca being the holiest site within Islam. They're required, or they're supposed to give donations or alms to the poor. Right, and this goes back to Muhammad's complaints about the greed in society and merchants. During the holy month of Ramadan, they are supposed to fast. That means that they're not going to eat or drink anything during the month. At least during the daylight hours, so from sunrise to sunset. But then, for dinner, for breakfast, of course, you're eating and drinking. And they are supposed to take the Hajj. The Hajj is a religious journey or pilgrimage to go to Mecca, at least once in their lifetime, assuming, of course, that they can afford it. So these are the 5 major pillars of Islam, the 5 major rules for Muslims to follow. So as simply as accepting that there's one God and that Muhammad is the prophet, that is the kind of the basic requirement for anyone to be considered a Muslim. And here we see the 5 pillars once again and once more. Now, another major part of Islam, we see this quite a lot in in society and the news nowadays is the idea of jihad or jihad. And basically, jihad literally means the struggle in the way of God. And the idea is that everyone has this personal quest to try to make yourself a better person. And then by making yourself a better person, you make society better. So for the original intent was just kind of like this self-evaluation about your rights, your morals, your beliefs, your ethics, and try to see how you can become a better person. But over time, like any other religion, Islam has been misinterpreted by people who use the religious foundations or the religious beliefs for their own personal gain. So nowadays, when people think of jihad, they think of killing non-Muslims, and a lot of the more terrorist extremist groups in the Middle East use this kind of like messed up version of this idea of jihad. So they think that to make the better society or to make a better person, the best way you can show that is to kill people who aren't faithful to Allah, aren't faithful to Islam. Now, so Muhammad, he eventually passes away, of course, because he's human. And after his death, a lot of the kind of like educated people of his inner circle, his council, they start coming up with these laws, become known as the Sharia or the Sharia laws. And the Sharia laws basically govern the lives of everyday Muslims, right? So these are like rules and requirements of what you can and cannot do. And they're, of course, based off of what is presented in the Quran and what's presented in the other teachings of Muhammad. So nowadays, again, we see in the news these kind of like extreme enforcement of the Sharia laws in various, Islamic countries like Saudi Arabia and Iran. So basically, it's kind of like the rules for everyday living. So, for example, they have dietary laws like what you can and cannot eat. Like they can't, for example, consume alcohol. They can't eat pork. They can't gamble. They put restrictions on how many wives a man can have. You can only have 4. And the Sharia laws also say that you can't enslave people of the book. So Christians and Jews cannot be enslaved, or at least they're not supposed to. So these laws, again, they're created, they're based off of the faith, right? Based off of the teachings, based off of the Quran, based off of Muhammad. And they also put a lot of restrictions, on women, but also at the same time give women a lot of rights, which we'll talk about in another section. So these laws, again, many societies, many countries still use them or a variation of them, some much more stricter than others. But they are religious laws based off of the Islamic religion, right? And all right, so Muhammad, he passes away. His scholars create this legal system, the Sharia laws, to kind of like keep the society, the growing Islamic empire or Arab empire growing under control, right? That's their legal standard. But the question was, who's going to take charge, right? Because Muhammad is not a emperor, he's not God, he's not the son of God, and he doesn't leave behind a son either. He has no male heirs. So the question is, who is going to be the next leader? And the next leader, the next successor, are known as the caliphs, right? Which in Arabic is pronounced Khalifa, where is that rap guy gets his name from. Anyways, so the Islamic Empire, the Arab Empire, we see it here, controlling most of the Arabian Peninsula by the time Muhammad passes away in 633 AD or CE. And from there, other people are going to take charge and grow the empire slowly but surely. And all right, so how it starts. So there's two kind of like main candidates as to who should be the next successor or the caliph, right? The first guy is Abu Bakr, right? The first guy is Abu Bakr. And Abu Bakr is Muhammad's father-in-law. And he eventually gets chosen because being the elder of the two options, the more popular one, he gets chosen. and he becomes the caliph, and he kind of expands the empire. But then there was also another guy called Ali, and Ali is Muhammad's son-in-law, right? So he's actually married to Muhammad's only daughter. And so some people supported Ali, but most of the people supported Abu Bakr. In the end, Abu Bakr gets the nomination, gets the title of caliph. But then Abu Bakr passes away, and then two other people come in as caliphs, and they get killed. And then finally, the fourth caliph is Ali, and then he gets killed. So we're seeing a pattern there, right? So originally, the caliph was supposed to be this kind of like, chosen successor to Muhammad, but over time it just kind of becomes a title of power, and people are willing to kill each other for that power. So we see the split going back over here between the Muslim population, right? And all the Muslims on earth are known as Dar al-Islam, or the House of Islam. And the Muslim population gets split into two groups, the Sunnis and the Shias. And the Sunnis were supporters of Abu Bakr, and the Shia were supporters of Ali, right? And each side claimed that their guy, Abu Bakr Ali, should have been the main guy. So the Sunnis say, Abu Bakr was the right guy, that's why he was chosen. The Shia say no, that Abu Bakr wasn't the chosen one, it should have been Ali. But regardless, both of these guys eventually pass away, but the divisions are already there in Islam. And so we have these two groups, the Sunnis and the Shias, and they both argue, even though they kind of have the same exact religious beliefs, they're going to argue over who should be in charge, right? Should it be the Ali side or the Abu Bakr side? And eventually, because they're the majority, the Sunnis end up winning, and a dynasty will come, led by founded by these merchants, these wealthy merchants of Arabia, known as the Umayyads, or the Umayyads. And so the Sunnis, they are going to remain as the main group of Muslims. So right now, for example, around the world, about 80% of Muslims are Sunni, and only 20% are Shia. And these two groups don't get along whatsoever. So for a long time, they've been fighting each other, and we see this conflict a lot in Mesopotamia, specifically in modern-day Iraq, right, where the Sunnis and the Shias live next to each other, and they fight all the time, which adds to that chaos and conflict that we see even to this day in the news all the time.